That's damaging to them. So now I forgot your question. Oh, how do you get back? So yeah, we dismiss people, and we give them, they get dismissed for 30 days minimum, and they can come back. They can reapply after 30 days. They have a couple requirements in order to reapply. One, they can't owe us money when they leave, or they have to pay that back, because I think they need to take responsibility for what they did the last time they were there. And two, we have a process by which people leave. In other words, we have dismissal meetings in which the guy has to come before all his brothers. He has to talk about what happened, why he's leaving, and the brothers get to say whatever they want to say to him about that. And we're going to pray together. We're going to wish him the best and that type of thing. And some guys will duck that. They don't want that. And I always tell them, you got to do that if you're going to come back, because you haven't respected the brothers until you do that. And you can't respect it if you don't respect the community. I can't have you a part of the community. And so they have to do that. So if they meet those two requirements, then they can reapply to come back. They still have to pay the entry fee again and come back through it. And they start from square one. They don't, they start and work it over. Now, a couple of caveats to that are that we probably spend more time as a staff taking care of the guys who get kicked out than we do the guys in the program sometimes, because we don't just quit caring about them. So we're constantly on the phone with them. There's one guy who left. I meet with him every Tuesday for lunch now. Kind of keeping up with him and making sure he's okay until he can get back. Making sure they have a place to go, getting them set up somewhere else. We try to do everything we can to do that, because fundamentally we're going to love people, and so we want to try to help any way we can. But they also have to face the consequences for their actions, and it's been sometimes devastating. But yeah. But we always give guys second, third chances. We've kind of come up with a rule that says if they've kind of come through 3 times, that they have to go somewhere else before they can come back. Because sometimes it just gets too comfortable and they're just running back because it's safe. And sometimes you need to go out and kind of experience something else first and then decide. So we've had some guys do that too. And some guys have gone to other programs and taken what we taught them and did better there, and have done great. So that's great.
A lot of times trauma is what will trigger a person to go something different. First question is does your process sort of try to bring out that trauma that's happened in a person? Second question is sort of how do you deal with that? How do you navigate through that?
Right. Yeah, trauma is a huge part. Almost, I'd say pretty much everybody has trauma in that situation. Couple of ways. We have a lot of small group stuff that we do, so there's a lot of conversation on those things, so guys getting open about their traumas. And a lot of times just being in the group and start hearing other guys talk about it, they'll start opening up about it and that type of thing. And so it kind of happens pretty just in the process with most guys. And I think just loving people. I think the biggest part of the trauma is being able to admit it and be loved in the midst of it. I think everyone's dealing with shame and guilt and all these kind of issues associated with it. And just kind of the biggest answer, I think, is just getting what's in the darkness into the light. That diffuses almost all of it pretty quickly, I think. And be able to talk about it. I have a very good friend of mine who went through our program 3 or 4 times until he finally admitted that he'd been sexually molested when he was 3 or 4 years old, kind of thing. And then he became openly talkative. He'd bring up a devotional. I was molested by her. And he's like, dude, that's not really appropriate here. I was like, we're not even talking about it. And now, he's been doing great for years now. He's married, he has a couple kids, he comes to my Bible study week at my house, he's been a part of our church for years. But it took that breakthrough to be able to talk about it openly that really helped him manage it. We also have tried to, in our effort to really focus on counseling this year, that's been our big focus, is getting trauma-informed counseling in and making sure that we're addressing it with our counselors. And so a lot of them are addressing it one-on-one too. So those are the 2 ways, but most of them can do it with themselves. The trauma is amazing. It's mind-boggling, the kind of traumas that these guys have gone through. I remember we had a guy, I can't remember, if I remember all the different pieces. In one night, I was in a small group, and like one guy opened up about something, which led to, and it was like, by the time I was done, I was like, this is insane. I mean, when you step back, I got home and told my wife, yeah, we had a pretty good group tonight. One guy, he talked about how his father was shot and killed within a couple blocks of his house, and every day, when he walked to school on his way to elementary school, every day he would stop and pick up the pebbles that had his father's blood on them where he got killed, and he collected them all through his childhood. Well, no wonder you're on drugs. I mean, that's pretty traumatic, right? I mean, but it's those kind of stories in people's lives, and the pain is incredible that people got through. There's a guy in our program right now. This is a beautiful story. A guy in our program who, for whatever reason, from the time he was born, his mother hated him. She loved her daughter and hated him. I mean, she would tell him, I hate you, and you've ruined my life, and constantly. And he shares a story that he remembers when he was 9 years old, sitting in the bathtub, crying out to God to kill him. And he's in his 30s now. He's come to a relationship with Jesus Christ. And he reached back out. He didn't even talk to his mother. Hadn't talked to his mother in years. He reached out and he called his sisters. Funny how this works. So I was counseling. I was working with him. And I said, well, how, we need to come up with a way to kind of reach out to your mom. And so we prayed about it. We talked about it. And so he said, I'll call my sister, because my sister's always been kind of our conduit. She'll kind of help us figure that out, right? He called his sister, who happened to be in the car with his mother. And he was on speaker. And so he got thrown right into that. And his mom broke down and cried, and she confessed how she had done all this, and she felt terrible for it, and she had never known, because they hadn't talked for so long, she didn't know how to deal with the guilt she felt over all those things, that she just went into her whole background and why she was the way she was. And now he talks to his mom every day, and they're buddies and friends and all that kind of stuff. And it's just amazing how God brings healing from those kind of things. But those are amazing stories, and a lot of trauma.
I just recently read the Mike Billigat, Mike Lindell, book. Couldn't put it down. He was a drug addict, crack addict. He was a gambling addict, and his life, it's his life, what happened to him, all the steps in there. But I think it's a very good book. You want to read something about an addict and what happened and how God had to be on through that process.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I'm all for people being trained to be able to help with trauma and those kind of things. However, don't ever underestimate the power of God to heal those situations. No trauma counselor could have set up Jameson calling his sister at a time that the mom's sitting in the car, and she's just kind of at that moment when she's ready to kind of break down and open up and deal with that. That's a God deal, and God's healed so many things in people's lives. It's amazing. From my experience, it's just like I'm kind of more on the sidelines watching God do the work in people's lives, and you get to kind of be more like cheerleaders and amazed and stunned and those kind of things than doing or making it happen. That's not really what we're about. We're just about enjoying watching God do the work. Yes, sir. Do I have any more time? Oh.
Do one more, Steve.
You mentioned applying to the program. So is there a waiting list because of lack of facilities?
Yeah.
You don't have so many.
Correct. Yeah, we have, like I said, we have space for 51 guys in our program. We just recently, last year, opened up a program in Atlanta. We have 12 spaces there. They're full now with a small waiting list. There's typically about 50 guys on the waiting list at any given time. And so, that's part of the hardship of it. I really want to continue to grow our program so that we don't have a waiting list. And we try to, the waiting list is an awkward kind of thing. So it's going to sound bad, but some guys who are in jail, we know they're kind of safe, and so they're okay. But if a guy's kind of out on the streets, we kind of want to try to expedite that because they're in a little more danger and a little more jeopardy at a given time. So, kind of balance those things. And a lot of people are kind of caught in court situations, that kind of thing. So I do have applications up here, by the way, and I hand out those cards. I just hand them out for this reason. If you can fill them out and give them back to me, one, you can get on a mailing list and just kind of know what's going on. I was going to mention that we do a podcast. If you check our website, hiswayinc.org, we do a podcast every week in which we talk about recovery things and recovery principles as are associated with Scripture. We just went through the 12 steps regarding Scripture. I'm now interviewing residents of our program who have walked through all these steps, and so kind of how they have journeyed those experiences. So there's a lot of good information in there if you ever want to follow our podcast. I have some information on our rediscovery program too, if you're interested in that, for our women. And we have a men's program for that too, for guys who aren't ready to be in a residential program yet. That I just want to kind of get involved in looking for a non-residential program. So I do have applications and things like that here. If you can fill out the card, that'd be great. And I can get you on our mailing list, and that will help you kind of be more informed to stuff going to get our newsletters on it. We're done now?
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Tom. Let's all fill out these cards and maybe give them to Rachel or to your Stephen leader, and we'll make sure we get those to Tom. Thank